The wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Hey, it's Lou, and I'm a little early this week. Sideline video outside of the normal Hopper schedule. I almost never do this because, I've seen other people do unboxing videos, and, they're fun, and I enjoy their excitement and all that. But all in all, it's really not, it's anticlimactic most of the times. Well, this time I have an unboxing video to show you, and it's quite special, and I'm stammering, so here it is. Well, let's back up a little bit. Sometimes I am lucky enough to get test shots of models, mostly from Mobius, some from Round 2, but once in a while I get a test shot of a model. It's a model that's not quite ready for market. It's usually in a loose bag, rather hurriedly put together into a box and sent to me with very usually no instructions or decals, just to get my impression of it, to get it built, to get the templates made for it or whatever. And I was asked a week or so, maybe closer to 2 weeks ago now, would I like to get a test shot of this new kit that's coming out? And I said, by God, yes, I would like to get a test shot of this model. It looks like it's going to be a fun build. So I was expecting it to come, in the mail in basic, the priority box that I normally get with a loose bag of parts inside. But oh no, friends and ladies, this is what I got in the mail today. Let me show you. Pan over to it, and here it is. This is Batmobile, and look at this box. This is the actual finished box from Mobius. Thank you, Mobius. I can't wait to get into this thing. And the box is open. I needed both hands to do it. This is why I couldn't hold a camera at the same time. Beautiful color instructions. Beautiful, beautiful. Looks like lots of fun. These remind me of the Lost in Space instructions they did with the color boxes behind the clear illustrations. Oh, we've got roll cages and, oh yes, forward guns, upper, right, very nice, very nice. Okay. Oh, good, color. Oh, wonderful, painting guide. Gunmetal gray, there's your answer, kids. Gunmetal gray. And it looks like we've got headlights and some other minor details. There's your dashboard / cockpit, and I have been downloading pictures from I guess it was a toy fair that had the actual prop on display to get some color references, but this is going to help tremendously. And here are some parts. Now they looks like they have learned their lesson from the old. Oh, it's still cold. You can tell how cold it is here. The stuff in the box is still cold. They learned their lesson from the Chariot days, and these rubber parts are packaged well out away from other parts. Looks like we've got a canopy here that's going to need some window masks. Oh boy, I can show you that right now. Yeah, these window frames need to be painted, so there's going to be window masks for this guy. And lots of parts. Those, it just keeps on going. I got wrist deep here. And there's still more parts. Bags upon bags. Okay, doesn't look to be any decal sheet, which is fine. I'd rather paint detail on anyway. This looks like the main part of the chassis. And sprues of parts. Well, I can tell you that I will be hopping on this thing like a hungry man hops on a steak dinner. This is quite lovely. And the first thing I'm going to do is digest these instructions and make sure I am doing it in the proper order that it needs, because I haven't seen the movie yet. Not very many people have. So I have no impression other than the photo or the trailers that I've seen as far as how this best goes together. So I am going to take the word of the people who wrote the instructions that that's probably the best way to go. So that's the unboxing video. And starting this weekend, it's it's Thursday night now. I might even clean parts tonight and start on this tomorrow after work. Hello and welcome back. It is February. It is the 13th. No, it's the 12th. I'm sorry. It's the weekend of Valentine's Day, and I'm excited for this weekend. Not only are we going to do big, bold, good work on the hopper, we're going to get that. I'm going to finish up the stuff on the front dashboard, and we're going to get the fingers crossed. We're going to get the cabin actually into at least one half of the ball this weekend. I don't know. I don't want to overpromise. But the other thing we're going to do is really fun. It's a really exciting opportunity, and that is this. Okay, welcome to the Batmobile build. Say that 5 times real fast. The Batmobile build. And this is the stage I like to call getting to know you. This is where I familiarize myself with the parts and look at the instructions, and I start cutting things off of sprues and cleaning off the sprue attachment places, and I look for things that I can do that are sub-assemblies, such as these wings. They have a top and a bottom. There's a two-parter on it. So they don't impact anything else other than the wing itself. So I can put these two parts together and let them be curing, let the glue cure, while I am doing other things. And I bounce around the model a lot. I leave the smaller parts still on the sprues because those can get lost, but I pick off the bigger, more identifiable pieces, and I'm getting ready to prime. But what I'm doing first of all is putting things together that I would like to prime as one piece, like the two, like I mentioned, the two halves of the wings, and other sub-assemblies that, frankly, if you prime them first, the paint would just be in the way. So I'm putting here's the 3 parts of the engine block. I can put those together and prime them all, and sand them and seam them, and then prime them all at once. So that's basically what I'm doing at this stage, and seeing how some parts relate to others, and figuring out the construction order, and going through the book and matching the illustration to the actual part, things like that. Okay, this is the general report. As you can see, the Batmobile is coming together. I am doing sub-assembly work, and I'm working on the details for the dashboard of the hopper. And I have decided to kind of go back. I'm stealing some good ideas I got from the net this week. I was recommended to do some clipboards and binders, and that makes all the sense in the world, so I'm going to do that. And I thought again about the mug issue, and yes, all I gotta do is take some of this styrene tube and chop it into various lengths, and maybe use some wire for a handle, but I can make mugs out of that and do some coffee stains and stuff like that. But what I want to do on the front console, on the front of the dashboard, is put this little planter. So I am mixing up some epoxy sculpt now that I'm going to use to stuff in there for dirt. Excuse me, for dirt. And I've got some flocking that I've used before that I'm going to use for the top of the grass, and I may take a lichen to sticking a lichen in there and making a little bonsai tree or something. So let's see how that kind of stuff progresses. Okay, that's not a half bad little mug. Needs some paint, and obviously needs a bottom on it, but I think I'm gauging it by the size of the hand of the character. So the handle is a good Steinish mug where you wrap your whole hand around it. So I think the idea is working. I might need to refine the execution of it a little bit, but I think that'll do fine. Well, hello and good morning. It is day 2 of the Batmobile, and things are coming along rather nicely. I have let the putty dry overnight, and I've sanded that down just to clean up some seams. I don't know by the time you actually put it in place how much of them will be seen, but I'll know they're cleaned up. And
all in all, I'm delighted with this kit. It does seem to be, I won't say over-engineered, but it does seem to have a lot of care and time put into things you won't end up seeing. So I guess that's a good thing. This little spidery thing that's a handful right there. Those are all of the pistons and adjustments for the two wings that go kind of back in here. And after test fitting everything last night, here's a weird thing that happens. Only the tiniest of top parts of it end up being seen because of how the cowling fits down over top of it. And it's a mother to get back into all of the little nooks and crannies that it has to fit into. So I may be thinking about knocking some of the length of these two pieces off, especially because they fit up under this area here. Let me put this in place, kind of like that. They fit up and under inside those slots, and they get and that in turn gets covered up by the next piece, so you don't end up seeing it. And it's a lot of Rubik's cubing to get it to fit when you don't end up seeing it. So we'll have to address that topic later. And I know people will say, "Oh, you're getting this kit early from Mobius, so you're not going to say anything bad about it because you don't want to upset the gravy train." That's not true. And I mean, the kit is good. The kit is very good. The instructions, however, leave something to be desired. I guess I'm more critical of people's instructions than anything else because I like to, yes, you have to be a skill level 3, ages 15 and up. So yes, I understand that from the get-go. But you'll notice how everything has the same similar shot from the 3/4 rear view. It's the same basic illustration of the pan every time with more parts added to it. Even when they talk about the roof, it's from that same rear 3/4 panel view. See, same view here, same view here, same view. And that's all well and good for the majority of the build, but there are so many little fiddly details on the front end of this of the Batmobile, particularly how the front suspension fits in, that they really should have done an illustration of the front. To spin this puppy around, I bet you have a CAD model of it somewhere. That's how you're generating all of these. But I really think, especially now, see, that's fine for that part. But when you show how it fits to the rest of the pan, and all of these walls are covering the actual connection, and you can't see it's supposed to go down behind a part, I would have, if I had my druthers, had spun this around so that you're seeing the front end of the front end of the car. Just like that is the rear quarter panel, left rear quarter panel, I would have done the right front quarter panel on that side. So that you can see how, because the front fenders, I mean, use those two standard drawings for both. For every time you're talking about the front end and every time you're talking about the rear end, because the front fenders, same way, they are a little bit of an intricate thing, and they really could have stood to had an illustration that showcased the front end. Again, these are all the parts that stack together that go on the front end, and the machine gun and whatnot, and it really wouldn't have hurt to have that an illustration that favored the front end so that you can see how those go on. But that's my Nicky point. That's all I'm going to say. I mean, there's enough photos that show the front end, and so you can see how it's supposed to be when it's done. It just would have helped to have those while you were building. And that's my soapbox point of the day. That's just the graphic designer and me coming out. So now I'm to the point where I've got enough of the sub-assemblies done that I can put some primer. I've got the putty has dried and I've sanded it. So now I'm going to start shooting some of these parts with primer. Okay, everything is back from the primer bath and has had a good chance to dry, and was lightly sanded and primered again and let to dry. So now I want to do some black painting, some pre-shading, some undercoating, so that when I put top coats on, they will pop that much more. So I need, and you'll notice I am using enamels. I very rarely use enamels. I prefer, to me, as acrylics, polyscale. I think polyscale is the enamel version. Anyway, I digress. But I am using metallizers, because the metal finish is what this kit is all about. It's some kits are all about the lighting, some are all about the painting. This Batmobile is all about the metallic finish and the subsequent damage to it. So what I want to do, the lesson I learned from using the alclads is to undercoat, and especially these side areas and the greeblies, they get covered up with the fender wells like that. I want to get in behind here and really darken that area up. And I want to do the insides of fenders and things like that. So it's time to get out the flat black and get to it. And this big mess of parts here is all of the Batmobile parts with a liberal undercoating of flat black. And that's where I'm going to build my, now that they've been primed and smoothed out, I use the flat black as a base, and then I will let this dry in real good for a real long time, and then I will put the top colors on, which are going to be steel and then a little bit of gunmetal over top of that. So now we're in the let it sit for a while part of the program. Okay, it's taken the patience of a saint not to touch this while it was drying. No, it didn't really. I just went to a movie instead to get out of the house and let it dry. But what it is everything has got the coat of flat black on it, even the bits up there. And now I am going to do the aluminum parts. And what I'm calling the aluminum parts are the engine block and the rear suspension, the aluminum parts. And we'll see how that goes, and then we'll get ready to paint the at least a top coat, or the first of the top coats of the steel slash gunmetal, and that will be the goal for the rest of the evening. And the aluminum is on now. The painful realization I've come to, actually it's not so painful, but the realization I've come to is not everything is going to be airbrushed. Some things still going to have to be painted the old-fashioned way by hand. But I got the aluminum on. Now the steel and the mixture of the steel and the gunmetal is going to be a little bit darker than that, but I still want that to pop. And I might take some straight up chrome silver, or maybe just some brush on full strength aluminum and just hit the highlights with a dry brush technique. I think I'm depending too much on airbrushing here and not enough on dry brushing. It's going to be a mixture of all these techniques, but got accomplished what I wanted to get accomplished, which was to bring out some of the high spots. So I'm going to let that dry for a good long while. Look at this little motor. That's the whole motor for the Batmobile. I look at this and I can only think of one thing, and that's the motor of the Yellow Submarine when they are puttering around and trying to find Jeremy Hillary Boob, PhD, to show them the broken Yellow Submarine motor, and they have this little thing that looks like a bread box. There you go. It's about the size of a bread box. Yet that is the big motor. And let me put the big exhaust on it. It goes something like that. Now the exhaust is supposed to be a higher polished chrome, so I will definitely put some dry brushing on that to bring out the highlights here. Let me see if I can fit that in there without breaking anything one-handed. And there you go. Something like that. So it's looking very good. There you go. Looking very, very sharp. Okie doke. let this sit for a while. This is my not to quote the Doctor Who, but Chrome is my silver nemesis, which was the name of a story, of an early Cybermen story, I believe. But the silver nemesis, I'm going to letting all that stuff dry so that I can come back, and I'm going to do one nice coat of body color tonight and let it dry overnight. So I need to see if there's any more construction I need to do at this point before I hit it with a body coat. Okay, here are all the major parts with a coat of gunmetal on them. And the result is amazingly similar to what my original black, a flat black, with a dusting of aluminum. Doesn't look all that different. But now it's got that nice little bit of a texture to it. And we're going to let this sit at least probably overnight. I think I've done enough damage on this today that I want to let these parts, let the paint cure overnight on them. And then we'll start maybe the final construction tomorrow and start aging. I might do the one more thing I could do tonight is probably do the tires. I can paint the I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. I can put the inserts into the tires and maybe try to weather the tires themselves. That'll be fun. And this is where we're going to leave it, I think, for Saturday evening. It's got a base coat of gunmetal on it. And I started playing with the tires. I may have said that before. The tires are a rare opportunity in this kit to actually throw some color into it, since everything is metallic gray and gunmetal and shades and tones thereof. About the only place you could throw in some color is on the tires, and I'm experimenting with some dirt with the Comarts, and then I'll put some dust on that, obviously, to dull it. But I'm thinking of trying to see what different colors of dirt do to it, and rubber wear and things like that. And then we can start playing with what kind of detailing and weathering is going to happen on this. Obviously, we need to, the leading edges of things need to have the paint scratched back so that it looks like the paint has been worn away a bit. This is supposed to be from what I know about the movie, which is not a lot plot-wise, I would imagine this Batmobile has been around for a while. This is not a brand new device. If Batman has been more or less retired, then this Batmobile has got to be on its not on its last legs, but it has to have been around for a while. So I've got pictures from a toy fair of the actual prop, so I'm going to try to match that as far as trying to achieve the weathering that I'm looking for, or the aging, maybe that's a better term. Well, good morning. It is Sunday, and we are down Sunday morning, and we are down to the little fiddly bit painting, and this is stuff that cannot be done with an airbrush. It needs to be tackled by hand, mano a mano. And it basically comes down to lots of little pistons and piston shafts, which are this little spidery thing, and support pistons, and some that are still on the tree that I'm going to paint there because they're easier to hold that way. And then some greebly details, and then we do, first I'm going to do black on some of these things, and then I'm going to come over with silver, and there's a lot of dry brush highlight type of stuff that needs to be done in silver that is particularly on, again, the piston ends, and I'm going to highlight some of the details on the engine and the exhaust pipe there. Do that with a dry brush and silver and kind of bring up those highlights. What I've been doing for the last few minutes is doing some weathering, for lack of a better term. I'm using just your basic Model Master steel, and I'm going over top of the gunmetal with a dry brush, and I am just hitting the high spots and putting some streaking in and some texture in. And if it gets to be too light, I am prepared to go back over it with a light spray of gunmetal again to darken it back down. But what it's doing is giving me the polish or the beat up metal look that I'm going for, not the showroom beauty of the straight gunmetal. So I've also been picking out highlights with silver and doing some dry brushing on the engine, and I think I've got that looking pretty good. Let's see, where else am I? Well, I'm steeling up my nerve. No pun intended, since I am using steel. I am steeling up my nerve to hit the big body, but I've been hitting all the quarter panels and the wings, and I'm going to do the fenders next, and then we'll hit the big body and see how it turns out. And we're back to the oh so familiar put it down and walk away stage, because I am starting to overdo, and but I'm getting some really nice textures in there. There are a couple spots I overshot and put too much on, so I'm going to have to come back with a airbrush full of gunmetal and spray it back down, or at least mist over top of it to knock it down some. But because this is Model Master's metallic paints, it needs to dry. So I'm in a stage right now where I can let it dry for a few hours and then come back to it. And then the next thing I want to do is some more major construction. Well, yeah, I want to do the next major construction, which is putting on the fenders and maybe even the body, putting it together outside of the wheels. The cockpit is going to be its own animal. I can paint it in place. It's going to need a lot of work. It's not going to get the full treatment because the full treatment doesn't exist yet. That would be aftermarket photo etch and lighting and things like that. And that's not really the mission for this build. This is a build it out of the box and see how good it looks build. And then you can add all the special features to it later on. So what I need to do is, like I said, put this down and walk away. I just realized there's some more I could paint in here before I can completely wipe my hands of it for the moment. Well, here's something in the real world you wouldn't want to see, but on a model you absolutely need, and that is 4 flat tires. Yes, I took the tires and I have flattened them. Hit them with a basic flat coat of a Krylon flat clear. And yes, they've got that seam down the middle, but you know tires actually do have a seam down the middle, so I'm not too critical of that. I'll wait to see how much it actually shows under the fenders before I worry about it. And I've put some brown and green, well, it looks kind of green, but it's actually browns into it because, like I've said before, this is a rare opportunity to actually get some color into what is basically a very monochromatic Batmobile. So I'm going to actually probably put some more dirt on them, but to make them stick, I needed to get the flat coat on it first. Okay, and you know, some things that I love in the heat of the moment don't turn out to be as great after I've come back after a while and looked at it, and that is the case with the dry brushing of the steel over the gunmetal. I do like it, but I think it's too much. So what I'm going to do is, when I come back from church, I'm going to glue in the quarter panels and do some construction that way, and some sanding and some seaming, and then I'm going to lightly dust the whole thing again, except for the engine compartment, with the gunmetal to kind of darken it back down, and then we'll see if I need to pick out just the highlighted points with the dry brushing. But coming along very nicely. Okay, it is Sunday, shortly afternoon. I've got, I'm ready to hit the ground running. I've got a clear idea of what I want to get done with the rest of today. I've got a clearly delineated method of doing that. Now, if I can avoid any distractions or side trips or last minute ideas, I think we can get down to it and get what I want to get done this weekend. Ooh, won't that be fun? Okay, let's show you where we are right now. Okay, I've gone all this way, and I've finally, I say finally, I don't mean to say finally, I have finally, I'm going to say it anyway, I have hit my first construction snag, and that is getting this piece of this piece of the front suspension in place whilst sandwiching these two looks like shock absorbers. It's tough, and it doesn't make any easier the fact that this whole kit is black on gray on silver on black. It's not the easiest kit to see the detail in. But trying to sandwich those in and capture all the pins that are necessary was a bit troublesome. So I basically had to knock off the bottom pins of the end of this piston here. Let me show you on the diagram here. On the instructions, it is what's happening right underneath there. There was a extraneous pin that needed to go into a hole that was on the, well, you know what I'm saying. It's easier if you just knock those pins off, because you're going to wedge that piece up against that other piece, the silver piece against the black piece here anyway. But there's a pin that's it's supposed to capture there. You just knock that pin off and you'll have a lot easier time trying to get those pieces all married up. So work progresses. I've got the quarter panels in, and I'm working on the front suspension now, obviously. So I guess the next bit is to put on the fenders, such as they are. Okay, we're down to one of those ah hell moments. There's always 2 or 3 ah hell moments in a model build, and that is the ah hell. This is a point of no return. This is part A going into part B. You get this wrong, your whole model's wrecked. So this is it. I've got the chassis done to this point. I'm putting the body on, and then the instructions call for the cockpit to slide in, and then the other wings and hoods and stuff to go on top of that. But this is the major construction here. This is the point of no return. So I want to make sure all of the glue joints are appropriately lubricated and ready to be joined together and never to come asunder. So it's going to be a lot of squeezing and hemming and hawing and poking and prodding. So let's see how it goes together. Okay, I've got what I'm calling the rolling chassis ready to go. See, it rolls. The tires are not glued on, obviously, or else they don't turn. And the outer part of the fenders I cannot put on until I am happy with the tires and ready for everything else to be finished up, because they encapsulate the tires. So those will stay off. And now I have to work this spider of a thing back inside. I did it once, I'm sure I can do it again. Okay, it's in, and I'm starting to slide the cockpit in, but there you can see all of the intricate pistons and whatnots are in. Now, before I cover this up too desperately or too completely, I want to go back and hit the black parts with a gloss black, because, like I said, this vehicle is a wonder of monochromia. Everything is within a very narrow spectrum of color, but where you can pick out some differences are in the finishes, whether something is shiny or dull or flat or glossy. So these pistons are supposed to be glossy black to kind of go with the chrome silver of the piston itself. So I'm going to touch those with a gloss black before I end up covering them up so completely that you can't get in and around to them. So let me do that now. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is slide this in and work that joint first, and then touch the bits that you end up seeing with the gloss black. Okay, this is about as fully realized as we're going to see it for a while. It is, I've got these wings here just kind of sitting in place, and those are just kind of hovering over where they're supposed to be. Because what I want to do now is take some gunmetal and darken kind of everything back down a little bit, kind of get rid of some of the over weathering that I did, and then place it aside for the rest of the day. So I kind of mocked up as much of what it's going to look like. I still have a few details to go under here as far as pistons and whatnot, and of course none of this is glued down. I know, and the wheels aren't attached. I am going to take those off so that I can do the weathering. But I wanted you to see how it looked, as close as it can be to its final approximation. Don't know whether it shows up here on video or not, but it's been darkened down 1 or 2 shades, and I am very happy with it now. Much more so than I was before. Now, there is still work to be done on it. Obviously, there's a bunch of work. All the detail bits need to be picked out on it, but I'm going to let that paint dry at least overnight before I go back to it. But I still want to hit the leading edges. Now, you can see if you look under there, you can still see underneath that coat, you can see some of, and I really like, I really like these guys here, the shading there that's happening. So let this dry overnight, come back just on the leading edges with a lighter hand than I used the last time, and hit that with the steel just on some of these, like I say, the leading edges. It's got a nice layer. It was a base color, a streaking layer, another light base color over top of that, and then just the lightest bit of touching up to do to really bring out some of these panels. And then I want to go in and do some of the weathering with the Comarts again after this is dried, and weather it with Comarts, like put some rust down in these greeblies here and around the machine gun, and some discoloration and some dirt along the cow catcher here and the bottom. Kind of touch these tires again and put some grime inside these bolts. That's supposed to be a gloss hub, but I can put some dirt in there on top of that and still have it glossy. And then there's the little details that need to be painted. This has to be silver. There's some gloss black highlights or accents, and I have not touched anything on the interior really. So that all has yet to be done. So there's plenty of more work to do, but I think this is a great part of the work is done over the course of a weekend without particularly rushing it. Now, I did work on it exclusively to the detriment of the hopper, and I'm hoping now that I've got a couple of hours left, I can do some hopper work. But so it's another home run for Team Mobius. I've never had a bad kit out of them yet. I have had issues with their instructions from time to time, but they've come a long way, even in that area, from the dark days of the original CVO instructions that were frankly horrible. But these are much better, and a wonderful painting guide, and I can't wait to see the actual movie, to see this thing in action, because the design has really grown on me, much more so than Batmobiles in the last few films. I really never warmed to that tumbler idea, only because it just looked like, an oversized tank for what it needed to do. I prefer this, has more personality to it, and I really prefer it. So, and more than the disco mobile that was in the Schumacher Batmans. Never cared for that. My first love will always be the '66 Batmobile with the red stripes. And if I ever get 2 or 3 more of these kits, I might paint one all black and put red stripes on it. Give it that paint scheme just to see how it would look. Or the orange. It's actually more of a day-glow orangey pink pinstripe. But that's neither here nor there. We're going to set this aside and start to working on the hopper. I'm working on the tiny details on the hopper. You can see since the last time, I think I've got my co-pilot glued in place. I've got a nice potted plant in the front window. I'm painting up some mugs. And I've got got a very excellent suggestion on the board to put books and clipboards and binders. And I've made them a little bit oversized. I need to trim them down, but I just scratch built some books and some clipboards and binders. Although I would hope that by this time they probably have everything on pads and tablets. So I might put some tablets in there as well and try to mock up some tablet fronts. You know, it was very interesting. I remember watching an episode of Next Generation, and Picard's desk is littered with tablets. It's like, why do you need more than one tablet on your table? It's like having multiple browser windows open. We still only have one computer on your desk with multiple browser windows open in your internet, but you don't have multiple computers on your desk. So what I'm doing now is adding some coffee stains, and what I'm doing is making rings. I've got some tube that is the same width as the mugs, and I'm dipping it into some Comart soft, subtle. I think it's soft dirt is what it's called for color, and that's way too much. But what I want to do is, see if I can see it through here. That's not working. There you go. I gotta mop those up. That's not working exactly the way I was hoping. So let's do. I think I just need less stuff on my brush at the same time. So, I'm liking that. Yeah, I just do it and mop it up a little bit with a Q-tip. And next thing you know, Jed's and me in there. Now, the next thing you know, I'm going to be ready to close this up. The goal for today is to get the cockpit done to the point where I can close up the light roof, the light ring, which is back there, and get that sealed down today. Okay, I need to reach a stopping point. I'm having way too much fun with this decorating. Look at the little plants in the window, and Mr. Fibble on the co-pilot seat, and I've got some coffee mugs strewn about. I've got some books and binders laying around. I put up a couple, let me see if we can find a couple of clipboards. Yeah, I'm getting to the point where it's almost too much, so I need to stop and reevaluate and see if I haven't reached the critical mass. Okay, I think I'm done with the inside. The last thing I did was to stack some books on the floor, because you know, no human would stack books like that. No person would stack books like that. I can't remember the exact quote. But books are stacked. Coffee is spilt. Yeah, I'm happy with it. The plants are growing. Yeah, I think I'm ready to put the lid on this puppy. That would be this guy right here. Stick a lid on it. And maybe seal it down. Okay, the clear piece is down and attached. I've got some foil tape going all around the outside of it. The next job is to seal the top ring down to the rest of the cabin, and to block some spacing in between some of these segments where there might be light leaks. Here is the cabin with the overhead light on. And in fact, the fluorescent's on over top of it, so you are seeing some very bright interiors. And the light is giving the hologram an appropriately ghosted, intense white. In my mind, the overhead lights also act as the holo emitter, so that he could be a hologram no matter where he goes in the cabin. So that's. Well, I think I want to put. There's some blonde. There's a dead spot right there. I think I want to put a little bit of lichen there before I put the windshield on and seal it up. And then I need to decide whether or not to block this. I think I'm going to try that with a sheet of something solid to see how it looks. And see the console lights going on and off. And the food replicator in the back is
doing its thing. Now, like I said, that overhead light will not be on all the time. It's probably the most obvious light in the whole place, and it is the least moody. So I probably won't use it a lot, but it has its purposes. And there you can see the console's going nuts. Okay, and we are to the stage of needing to seal this ring down to the rest of it. So I'm going to get out some 1 minute epoxy and epoxy the snot out of it, and then we're going to let everything sit overnight before we're not going to get the cabin into the ball today. So we're going to call it quits at this point, and I may put the windshield on just to see how it looks. But yeah, we're gonna call it quits for today. Okay, it doesn't look very pretty, but it's on. I've got a nice bead of 1 minute epoxy sealing the roof in, and in the process I broke off the chase for the fiber optics, but I've glued that back on and it's doing its due. And really, there's nothing much more to say about this tonight. We'll flip it over in the morning, and actually I'll flip it over in about an hour or so, wait for that to really set up good, and then I'll flip it back over and get it ready to install. All that's left that needs to go on it is the windshield. And once that's installed, and I'm not going to glue that in place, I'm going to run a bead of this foil tape around the edge of it just to kind of hold it in place. And then once that's in, then the whole shebang goes inside the ball. And that's going to do it for another weekend. Yes, the hopper kind of took a back seat, but when life presents you a Batmobile, you build a Batmobile. That's the t-shirt I saw once that said, always be yourself. Unless you can be Batman, then always be Batman. So that's my motto for this week. So took a lot of side trip away from the hopper to do the Batmobile. And yes, the Batmobile was newer and sexier and more fun, and I really wanted to get that done. So the hopper suffered, but the hopper also didn't suffer because I was able to take my time and do tiny little things as opposed to trying to rush it. When I rush things, there's never a good result. Oh, shut up, you stupid little compressor. And even you know who have a compressor know that sound. Anyway, yes, got a lot done this weekend. It was fantastic. It was a good modeling weekend. I'm happy about all the results. Batmobile, mostly done. Now, I have not touched the interior yet, outside of painting, like that's the big things, but I have not done any detailing on the interior because I wanted to get the outside done. And the outside is mostly done. All I'm down to now is the tiny details, all the tiny little details, and putting the wings on and things like that, lining up all of those little shocks and pistons and things. And then putting the tires on, that's a big deal. I want to, here are the tires. I want to take another go at weathering them now before I decide that I'm done with those and put those in place. I cut myself. Just now. I mean, it's not been nothing I've been laboring with, but just now. It hurts. It's like a paper cut, only with, metal. So, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week when we will be doing more big stuff. I have got a derelict. I've got a or as Zoolander would say, a derelict. I have a derelict in the wings. I have the hopper to get going. I have an eagle in the wings. On the wings of an eagle. The eagle's in the wings. And if anyone tells you that 2016 is not the golden age of sci-fi modeling, give them my address. I will look them up and I will go and pinch them in the face, because this is never have we had this kind of a choice of what to build. Things coming out every month, sometimes 2 a month, but a glorious, glorious time. And it's almost a shame because you don't stop and savor each build as it comes out. Back in the dark times, back in the 80s, when all you had was the 18-inch Enterprise and an old 12-inch Eagle, if you could find one. Those were the dark times for sci-fi modeling, and the kids these days, they don't appreciate it. They think they get... No, I'm going to go off on that rant. Anyway, it's a great time to be a modeler. Revel in your time, to quote, I think it was Tyrell who said that to Roy Batty. He said, revel in your time. And that's a good life lesson for all of us. So until next time, when we will be... Oh, and speaking of revel, Revell, all of the Star Wars stuff that Revell has come out with. Wonderful time to be a modeler, but I digress. So until next week, when we will be reveling again, please enjoy yourself. Have a good week. Be nice to each other. We'll see you around the desktop, the workbench, the place where I do stuff. We'll be back here next week, and I will probably have the Batmobile at least finished by then, because I'm going to be working on that. I'm not going to wait till next weekend to start back on that. I'm going to be working on that every day. So until then, have a good week. Be good to each other. Like I said before, it bears repeating. See you next time.